Factor time. All of these problems are different types of factoring. You might notice that your review guide might have had a 12 here, and that was wrong. If that is a 12, it's not factorable, so I went and changed it on mine to a 13. Therefore, it is possible to actually answer this question. So in this first one, it is 3 terms long, and it is going to be the X method that I do, where the last number goes on bottom, the middle number goes on top, and you look to see what multiplies to that and adds up to this. And if you're very bad at number sense, you can just list out everything, starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to what goes into 48. So like 1 times 48 is 48. 2 goes into 48 24 times. 3 does go into it 6 times, 16 times. 4 goes into it 12 times. 5 does not go into 48. 6 times 8, 7 does not go into it, and 8 is back where we started. So this is everything that multiplies to 48, and somehow, some way, you're supposed to get 13 using these numbers. So take a second and look which one will get you 13. That one, okay. In order for this to be negative 13, it's going to have to be a negative 16. 3 minus 16 is negative 13. So that's a positive 3 and a negative 16. Since this is just a regular x squared problem, you're just done. It's x plus 3 and x minus 16 as your answer. If there is a number in front like B has, there's more you have to do, but that's it for simple trinomials. It's just those 2 numbers, you write them in the parentheses now. So with B, this time there is a number in front. That changes things. If there is a number in front, you have to do the X method again, but this time you have to multiply the 3 over to the 6. 3 times 6 is 18. And this 11 goes in the middle. So what multiplies to 18? Well, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. How do you get 11? 2 plus 9. So positive 2 and a positive 9. So this is where things change. Because we had that 3 in front, your answer is not going to be just x plus 2, x plus 9. You have to do something called the AC method, where you keep the 3x squared, but now you're going to split up that middle term, 11x, into your 2 numbers, plus 2x plus 9x plus 6. So the 11 gets split into those 2 numbers that you found, and then you can factor by grouping. But the 3x and the 6 do not change. It's just the 11 is now 2 plus 9, because 2 plus 9 is 11. And once you factor by grouping, these both have an x in common. 9 and 6, the number that goes into both of them, is a positive 3. And when you divide out the 3, you get 3x plus 2, which is always not so coincidentally the same thing. So we have 3x plus 2, and we also have x plus 3 as our answer. Like so. Okay, so those ones are kind of weird. If you need to rewind and watch that again, you can. Well, once again, it's multiply that over, you get 18. X method, what multiplies and adds, you get those 2 numbers. Those 2 numbers become the middle, and then you factor by grouping. Okay. Boop. C. C is an interesting one. The first thing about C you should notice, hopefully, is that it has a greatest common factor, unlike the other 2. 8 goes into both of them, so you will factor out an 8. Please make sure you write the 8 down that you are factoring out. So if you divide this by 8, you get x cubed. If you divide this by 8, you get 8. So that is factored by GCF. But in addition to GCF, you can actually factor it again because this is a difference of cubes. Difference of cubes goes like this. Keep the 8. We'll have 2 things in our first parenthesis and 3 things in our second parenthesis. So we're going to have 2 things here and 3 things here, like so. The way you find them is, first of all, you cube root each of these parts, and that goes in these blanks. So the cube root of x cubed is just going to be an x, and the cube root of 8 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So it's going to be 2 to the third, so 2. After that, you take these numbers and you do certain things to them. In the first blank, we're going to square the first. We are then going to multiply the 2 things together, and then we're going to square the second one. And this is where this is the first and this is the second thing. That's the pattern. So you square this thing, then we're going to multiply the 2, and then we're going to square that thing. So x being squared is just an x squared. Multiply them. X times 2 is 2x. Then squaring the second. So 2 squared is 4. To fill in the signs, there was an acronym we used, SOAP, which stands for same, opposites, and then always, and then people either say plus or positive. I put plus. Same, opposite, always plus. So in this case, it's a minus. So the same would be a minus. The opposite would be a plus. And then always plus means always plus. So once again, we cube rooted it. Square the first, multiply the 2, square the second. And that's our final answer. 8, x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Last question to go. This one is a difference of squares. Difference of squares has to have a minus in the middle, and you have to be able to square root both parts, which you can. So since you can, you do. The square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 25 is 5. And in a difference of squares, what you do is you write it twice, and then one is a plus and one is a minus. This is something you should memorize. One's a plus, one's a minus. You technically don't have to. You can just say, well, how am I supposed to get negative 25? What multiplies to negative 25? And the answer is 5 and negative 5 multiply to negative 25. So that's where that comes from. At the same time, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. So the first things have to be 2x, and then the only way to get negative 25 is if one is positive and one is negative. But really, long term, you would want to just memorize difference of squares is you square root both parts, one's a plus, one's a minus. Square root both parts, one's a plus, one's a minus. There was no GCF, so we didn't pull out a GCF. And there you go. That is the factoring portion right there. So hopefully all this helped. You can always rewind, watch again, or pause and try to do those things. I suggest like maybe watching this through a second time, but like, oops, wrong piece of paper. Well, I guess for these ones at least, like try these again, pause each step, see if it's correct. But you know, videos, it's useful to pause and just try to do these problems yourself. Watching videos will not be enough to study for this thing. You always have to try them and do them. Do them on a separate sheet of paper. Write it out, try it. If you think something is wrong, come back, look at this, see if it's matching up or not. But you need to physically write things down if you're going to get better at these things. Practice makes perfect, they say, but honestly, it doesn't even need to be perfect. Practice makes you're able to do anything at all. So please study, please do well. This is just supposed to help. So here you go, answers to everything. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on the test day.